All right, let's talk about who we are. For the longest time, maybe most of history, human beings who were thoughtful and responsible and mature understood that they have an option. They have free choice. You can be good or you can be bad. You can be beautiful and you can be ugly. You can be high, idealistic, or you can be low, greedy and selfish. Those were the options. And in Judaism, that was known as the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov, the good inclination and the evil inclination. One side of me wants to be good, and the other side wants to be bad. So what were the choices? Good, bad, ugly or beautiful, high or low, constructive or destructive. So good people, intelligent people, chose to do things that are constructive, that are helpful, that make your life better, that make your relationships better. Productive. And people who were not so good did things that were not so productive, more destructive, and caused lots of problems for themselves and for others. The result was that we lived our lives based on reward and punishment. If I do this, will it reward me? Will it make me smarter, stronger, more popular, more lovable? That's the reward. And then there's the punishment. If I do bad things, ugly things, lowly things, the punishment is going to be, I'm going to be less popular, I'm going to be less lovable, I'm going to be less respected. That's it. That's life. That's all of life. And even when we discovered psychology and we found out the deeper layers of who we are, we only discovered that we care about these things a lot more than we thought. That if you're not popular, it may bother you a little bit in your mind, but it bothers you a lot subconsciously. But the issue is the same. Hasidus came along and said, that's not really what you should be worried about, and that's not really who you are. There's something much prettier, much more elegant, much more worthy of life. And that is that you have actually two souls. That's who you are. It's not you could be good, you could be bad. That has more to do with your behavior. Sure, you can behave well or you can behave badly. That doesn't tell you who you are. In other words, to tell a person, you are the option of right or wrong, good or bad. You can be good, you can be bad. That's it. That's who I am. Being bad is part of who I am. So I'm half good and half bad. I'm half beautiful and half ugly. That can't be. That can't be a description of me. I'm capable of being good and I'm capable of being bad, but who am I? So Hasidus came, beginning with the Alter Rebbe about 200 years ago, and he said, this is not a good definition. And it's not really the primary struggle in life. To be good or to be bad, you tell your children when they're very young, bad is bad, don't be bad. Be good. That should be enough for the rest of their lives. To spend your entire life trying to not be bad, first of all, that's a little depressing. At every moment, I could be bad, and I have to be careful not to be bad. That makes me pretty bad, if that's my definition. It's discouraging, and it's confusing. Because, you can be bad 1 minute and good the next minute. Now, who am I really? Seems a little schizophrenic. Who's the real me? And if the real me is bad, that's really, wow. That's seriously depressing. Because it's not true. You can do bad. That's how talented you are. But who are you? You're not half good and half bad. That's way too negative. Another thing, good and bad, if it matters to you, where does it affect you? You say to a child, you're a bad boy. Where is the effect on the child? On his emotions. Good and bad is kind of an emotional issue. Because bad is a little scary, and good is a little comforting. It's an emotional issue. Ugly and beautiful, that's an emotional issue. If I'm ugly, I'm depressed and sad, and if I'm beautiful, I'm optimistic and I'm proud. Reward and punishment is certainly an emotional thing. When you tell somebody you're going to get punished, where does it touch the person? In his emotions. So all of life, the way it was before the Alter Rebbe, all of life was lived on an emotional level. What appeals to your emotions or what scares your emotions. The Alter Rebbe lifted us into a much more beautiful identity. The Alter Rebbe says you have two souls. What is a soul? A soul is an energy and an excitement. When you have two souls, you have two excitements. Two kinds of excitement. And what is excited? If you understand human beings, what's excited is either your pleasure or your will. You're excited in that you want something, or your intelligence. You understand something and it's exciting, or your feelings. You love something and that's exciting, or you hate something, that's exciting too. Takes a lot of energy. And then there's your behavior. So you can be excited to do something, you can be excited to say something, and you can be excited to think something. So now, what is a soul? A soul is that energy that excites either your pleasure or your will or your mind or your heart or your behavior or all of the above. If we say that we have two souls, I mean, this is really amazing. Two souls means I have two energies that excite my pleasure and my will and my intelligence and my emotions and my behavior. One of the souls is godly, which means it gets excited to godly pleasure, godly will, godly wisdom, godly emotions, and godly behavior. that's a totally godly person. Because with those aspects of your soul, you're a complete person. So the godly soul is a complete person. And then there's the human soul. The human soul is an excitement. Also, pleasure, will, wisdom, emotions, and behavior. But in the human soul, it's all human pleasure, human will, human intelligence, human emotions, and human behavior. So now, who are you? You are a being that can choose between being human or being godly. Of course, you're capable of being bad. You're capable of sinning. That's not who you are. That's one of the capabilities. But who are you? You are on the crossroad, on the choice. You're standing always on the choice between human and godly, not between good and bad. Bad is not part of who you are. You are either human or godly. There's the human part of you, there's the godly part of you. To put it in simple words, what is the difference between my human part and my godly part? My human part is selfish. It's always about me. I gotta be me. What's best for me? How do I protect myself? All about me. The godly soul is all about a mission. What am I here for? What am I supposed to accomplish? Who am I supposed to help? Who created me and why? That's the godly soul. So, for example, the human soul takes great pleasure in doing a good job and earning a big check. Did well, you're a mensch. You're a successful human being. The godly soul gets pleasure when he can give that money away to someone who needs it more. So in simple language, the human soul is about yourself, and your godly soul is about who you can help and how you can make the world better by serving the purpose for which you exist. So the Rebbe says, you really should put all your energy into your godly soul. Because if you put all your energy into your human soul, you will become a really decent human being, a fantastic human being, an impressive human being. But when you become a really fantastic, impressive human being, you will suddenly ask yourself, what was that all for? Yes, I worked hard and I succeeded. People think highly of me. I get respect. People like me. I'm great. But what for? What for? What did I do all this for? So it sounds something like this. I am born. I have to grow up. I have to accomplish something. I have to help myself. I got to develop myself. I've got to become something, and I've got to protect myself a lot. And I do all of that successfully. So I've protected myself, and I've gotten everything I need, and I lived up to my human potential. Wonderful. But then you have this question. What was that for? So what? It's like you're born a human being, you work hard at being a human being, you're successful as a human being, and then what? It seems like a dead end. Let me tell you this little story or illustration. This guy says to God, you know, I worked hard all my life. I'm trying my best. I'm struggling. I'm doing everything. And I have no life. I have $20 in my pocket, and that's all I have. No life. Give me a life. So God says, you have $20? Yeah. Give me the $20 and I'll give you a life. So the man says, okay. Well, but if I give you the $20, I won't have money to put gas in my car. God says, you have a car. Give me the car and give me the $20 and I'll give you a life. The man says, okay, but if I give you my car, how am I going to get to work? God says, oh, you have a job. Give me the job, give me the car, give me the $20, and I'll give you a life. So the man says, okay, but wait, if I give you my job, how am I going to be able to pay the mortgage? God says, you have a house? Give me the house, give me the job, give me the car, give me the $20, and I'll give you a life. So the man says, all right, but wait, if I give you the house, where will my family live? And God says, you have a family? Give me the family, give me the house, give me the job, give me the car, give me the $20, and I'll give you a life. The guy says, okay. And gives it all to God. Then God says, here's $20. Here's a car. Here's a job. Here's a house. Here's a family. Now you have a life. So what happened here? A guy is complaining, I have no life. It turns out that he does have a life. So what was he complaining about? He didn't realize that he has a life. How does that happen? How can a person who has a life feel like he doesn't have a life? So instead of going through that whole spiel with the $20 and the car and God should have said, I'll heal your brain and you'll realize that you have a life. A person who has a life still needs to know what that life is for. What's the point? What's the purpose? I have a family, I have a house, I have a job, I have a car, and I have cash. And then, so what? What is it all for? That's your godly soul asking. So your human soul is content. The man knows that he's a mensch, but he doesn't understand what the whole thing was for. What is the purpose? Let's put it in different words. We all know what works and what doesn't work. We know what makes us healthy, what makes us sick. We know what makes us happy and what makes us miserable. We know what works. We know what gives us pleasure, what gives us pain. We know that. If you live a life absolutely perfect, which means you always do what gives you pleasure, you never do anything that gives you pain. You always do what makes you more successful, never what makes you a failure. You always do what works, never what doesn't work. You would be a perfect human being. But you're living on a totally emotional level. What works means what feels right. So your whole life is feelings. This feels good, this feels bad. This feels important, this feels unimportant. It's all feeling. A human being who is intelligent is never happy with that. Because the intelligence is asking for something different. Never mind what works. Tell me why. Even if it works, why do I have to do it? Why do I have to make my life work? Because it could also fail? Well, then I don't understand the whole point. So God makes you a human being and says you can either succeed or fail. I don't like that. What's the point? I succeed in order not to fail? I'm living my life out of fear of failure, of rejection, of disease, of punishment. It's too emotional. I need some intelligence that explains why I'm here. What's the point? What am I accomplishing by being a successful human being? So this is who we really are. We are created human, but we can also become godly. Does this make any sense yet? Shana says yes. But we've talked about that a number of times. Let's put it in different words. When a kid is in a bad mood and you ask him to do something, it has become very common for a kid to say, "Leave me alone. I didn't ask to be born." "Clean up your room." "I didn't ask to be born." "Get dressed in time for the bus and get to school on time." "I didn't ask to be born." What is that reaction? I didn't ask to be born. He's not necessarily depressed. He's just stating a simple fact. I didn't ask to be born. Actually, nobody asks to be born. So if your kid ever says to you, "I didn't ask to be born," you should say, "Well, neither did I. I didn't ask to be born either." So then let's sit down together and figure out how this mess happened. We didn't ask to be born, but we are born. So what's going on? See, it doesn't make sense. If I didn't ask to be born, it means I never promised to do anything. I never signed any contract. I never made any kind of an agreement. So why do I have to get up and go to school? Why do I have to clean up the room? I didn't ask to be born. How did I suddenly become responsible for things? It's a very good question. And religiously, The question is, God creates me without asking me, and I didn't ask to be born, and I don't want to be born, and I don't need to be born, but God puts me into this world and says, if you don't behave yourself, I'm going to punish you. Hey, what kind of deal is that? What kind of deal is that? It's like somebody invites you to a very expensive restaurant and orders the most expensive food and then tells you to pay for it. And if you don't pay for it, you're going to jail. Whoa, what happened here? So imagine you're invited to this very expensive restaurant. And while you're there at the restaurant, you are a perfect human being. You eat like a mensch. You sit like a mensch. You talk like a mensch. You do everything right. You're such an impressive person. And then they say, okay, you pay the bill. All of a sudden, being an impressive human being is beside the point. So what if you're a good person? So what if you sat like a mensch and ate like a mensch? You even made a bracha before and you benched after. So what? Why do I have to pay the bill? That's your godly soul. Your human soul tells you to sit like a mensch and eat like a mensch and talk like a mensch. But your godly soul says, I didn't ask for any of this. So why do I have to pay the bill? In simple language, being a successful human being is not enough. So we spend all the years, every waking moment worrying, am I a mensch? Am I good? Am I beautiful? Am I successful? Am I popular? And what if the answer is yes to all of the above? Then you're okay? Good enough? It's not good enough. Usually people realize this when they retire, when they're old. Today, children are realizing this at 10 or 11 years old. They're already saying, I didn't ask to be born, which is a very, very good question. So fine, I'll clean up my room. I still don't know why I was born. So I'll go to school and I'll get good grades. I'll get a good report card and I'll even get into the best college. I still don't understand why I was born. So the only source of knowledge that can answer the question, why am I here? Why was I born? The only place to get an answer to that is in your godly soul. Because your godly soul just wants to do whatever the reason for its existence in this world, whatever mission the soul is supposed to accomplish by being born, that's all the godly soul ever thinks about. There's one other way of thinking about it. The human soul chooses what works. The godly soul wants to know what's true. I know what's good, but that's not the same as true. It's good to be healthy. It's good to be successful. It's good to be rich. It is, it's good. And it's good to be kind and decent and honest. All good. But is that true? What's true? when we ask, for example, which is the true religion? There are so many religions, and they all say they're true, but which one is true? So let's say, just hypothetically, if you follow any religion, you're going to be a good person. Unless the religion teaches you to hate. But again, hypothetically, any religion is going to tell you to be moral, to be good, to be smart, to be... So now you want to know which is the true religion. Why do you care? What difference does it make whether something is true? As long as it works, what else do you need? As long as it works, your human soul will be content. But your godly soul is still going to ask, but what's the truth? The purpose for which we exist, that's the truth behind everything. If there is no purpose, if we were not created for any particular reason, then there is no truth. It's whatever works. You know, we're trying to evolve. We're part of the evolution process. So you try to evolve as successfully as possible. Survival of the fittest. What's true? Nothing's true. There are just things that work and things that don't work. The godly soul is not content with what works. I worked very hard and I succeeded. I don't know why I went through that whole thing. I don't know why I was born. I don't know why I had to work, and I don't know what to do with my success. So now what? That's why rich people get depressed more than poor people. Because a rich person already accomplished what works. Now what? The poor person is still very busy trying to find what works. So, you want to know yourself? Here is who you really are. You can be practical and successful as a human being, or you can be idealistic and find the truth of why you exist in the first place. And that's called serving the purpose, fulfilling the purpose for which you exist. That's serving your Creator. Your Creator has a reason for you to exist. So if you fulfill that reason, you are serving Him, you are becoming godly, and you are fulfilling the purpose for which you exist. But here's the final clincher. The difference between the human soul and the godly soul. The human soul always feels needy. I need this, I need that. I have to have some of those, I have to have some of these. I need to get here, I need to go there, I need to see this, and I need to see that. It's so needy. I need friends, and I need approval, and I need therapy, and I need pills, and I need drugs. I just need and need and need endlessly. That's the human condition. The godly condition is, I am needed by my family, I am needed by my community, I am needed by my Creator, I am needed by the universe, because without me, the universe won't be complete. And so I'm always busy serving, doing what I am needed for. So the human soul is needy. The godly soul knows that it is needed. That's our choice in life. Good and bad shouldn't be a daily choice. Once in a while, you'll be tempted to be bad, but that's the exception. That's the embarrassing part. We're not always on the verge of sinning. The choice every day is, am I going to act needy like a human being, or am I going to fulfill what I am needed for and serve a greater purpose? Those are your two souls, and that's who you are. It's a much nicer picture, much more complementary.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
What's the balance between like needing and giving and thinking what you're needed for? Because like society tells us, and I feel like a lot of us believe that like there are certain needs that we all have. What's the balance between like not being needed for too much and like also being, you know what I'm saying?
No, what do you mean?
What's the balance between what we are needed for and needing? Because like when do you stop? Meaning even what you're like, if you're always thinking about what you're needed for, is that always a good thing?
Always a good thing.
And what if it goes over your own needs?
It should go over your own needs. The point is that we want to stop being so needy. Being needy is a little depressing. So you want to stop. You want to stop being needy. You don't want to focus on how needy you are. You don't want to agonize over it and get depressed about it. So yes, you want to go past your needs.
I have a question.
The problem is that sometimes the two get jumbled. I want to do everything my mother asks, not because she asks, but because then I'll get more attention. So really, I'm doing what I need. It just looks like I'm doing what my mother needs. So let me give you a perfect example that you can use in your entire life. A boy from New York went to yeshiva in Europe. He arrives on the first day. He goes into the office and says to the rabbi, he says in Yiddish, he says, I need to call my mother. Which phone can I use? This was back when people didn't have their own phones. The rabbi says to him, I need to call my mother. The guy said, yeah. And the rabbi said again, I need to call my mother. The boy didn't understand what that was all about. Were you mocking me? I need to call my mother. After the third time, he realized what the rabbi was saying. He travels overseas. He comes to the office and he says, I need to call my mother. And the rabbi says to him, excuse me, think again. You need to call your mother? Well, you don't have those privileges here at the yeshiva. You don't get to do whatever you want or whatever you need. So he thought quickly and he said, okay, my mother needs me to call her. Which phone can I use? The rabbi said, oh, now you got it right. So think about this for a minute. If he walks into the office and says, I need to call my mother. Well, first of all, it's not true. You don't need to call your mother. You know you're okay. You don't need to call your mother to tell her that you're okay. So it's not even true. You don't have that need. Why are you calling your mother? Because your mother has a need. You're calling your mother because she needs to hear that you arrived safely. So why can't you talk emes? Why can't you say things truthfully? Why do you twist everything? I need to call my mother. Why? Because my mother needs me to call her, and if I don't call her, then she's going to get upset and be angry at me. Why is it always about you? You call your mother because she needs you to call. So here's the difference. If you need to call your mother, okay, so that's what you need. You're needy. Not a mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah to do what you need. But if you're calling your mother because she needs to hear from you, now you're fulfilling a mitzvah. Now it's the godly soul talking.
It's
But
like
when you
saying I
say,
need to.
huh?
Sorry. No, sorry. I was going to say it's like saying like I need to daven, or I need
Yes,
to keep Shabbos, or I need to. That's already selfish and it's backwards.
yes,
Versus,
it's a lie. And that's what always gets you into trouble.
mm,
I need to get to heaven. No, you don't. I need to be frum. No, you don't. It's not even about you.
So if someone
Why?
feels overwhelmed from being there for everybody, feeling like they're needed by everybody, it's not because they're really serving a need of being there for others. It's serving their own desire to want to help others. And that's why they're being overwhelmed.
In other words, they're being nice to others
So they can feel good.
because they're expecting a return. Then everybody will be nice to me. And that's why if I'm nice to people for a week and a half and I'm not getting anything back, I quit. I tried. I was so nice to you and I got nothing back. So we're not friends anymore. Also, everybody needs me. Everybody needs you. Already you're exaggerating. Everybody's always taking from me. Everybody, come on. So the godly soul always sticks to the emes. Do you need this from me? Because I don't need it. I don't need to be nice to you. You need a favor. And if it's your need, I'll do it. See, that's godly. So a person should always say, the mitzvah I'm about to do, I don't need. But if this is what God wants from me right now, sure I'll do it. And I'll do it happily, because to do for someone else is much more enjoyable than doing for myself. So if you put yourself first, you're not going to enjoy your life. Like the simple example, you're home alone and it's lunchtime. What are you going to have for lunch? You'll open the refrigerator, you'll open the cat, whatever's there, some leftovers, some whatever, a jar, a can. It's boring, it's tedious. But somebody calls you and says, can I come over for lunch? Well, you're going to cook up a lunch. You're going to lay out a spread. You're going to make it beautiful. It's so much more pleasant to do for somebody else than to do for yourself. That's the godly soul. So that story about the boy, I need to call my mother. It's such a perfect metaphor for everything in life. Don't plagiarize. Don't take your mother's need and claim that it's yours. Don't take God's need and claim that it's yours. The godly soul wants to always be clear about the truth. And the truth is never personal. So it's never heavy. Personal is heavy.
I have a quick question. Is that all right?
Sure.
So I know that this is why I'm kind of confused, because in marriage, isn't it that like your partner's need also becomes your need?
Ah, now you're going way idealistic. Yes, if your wish is my command, that's really amazing. That's really serving the other person's need with a devotion. I will take care of you better than you would ever take care of yourself. Those are the very special relationships we have in life.
So how is that like different if with a son and a mom? It's like my mom needs me to call, so I'm devoted to my mother, so I'm going to call her because I need to. Or is that different?
Her need is not my need, but her need is as urgent as if it were mine. In other words, my mother needs me to call, so I can't not call. Right?
So that does kind of become your need, though, if you like can't really go on without it, if that makes sense.
Well, you can go on without it, but
I mean, she can too, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, well, it depends on how sensitive she is.
Yeah.
But the point is, I can't not do what she needs. What does it mean I can't not do it? I can't imagine not doing it. How do you not do what your mother needs? So is that your need, or is that your commitment or your ideology? So it feels like a need, but it's still her need. Only her need is now waking you up in the morning.
So how is that different from a partner per se?
It can happen with a partner, but they're very special relationships. And it only happens a few times in your life. Could be with parents, could be with a spouse, could be with a partner and very serious issues. But the point is this: every person is born with a certain drum in their head, and they march to that drum. If you're godly, you pick up somebody else's drum and you march to that drum. And it's the only drum you hear. So how can you not do what the other person is asking? So it's a subtle but very important difference. I can't ignore you, which means I can't ignore your need. So it feels like I need it, but no, it's your need that I can't ignore. But that comes from devotion, not from neediness.
So it's kind of like working somewhere and like the boss tells you that he needs to get something done.
Yeah, but then you do it because you don't want to get fired.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you resent having to do it. They're very different.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So, two things. One thing you mentioned is that if you're helping someone, you never get tired from actually truly helping someone. Is that why the Rebbe never got tired giving out dollars?
What are your sound effects over here?
Sorry, that's my phone.
Oh, I thought you end every question with that sound.
No,
Yeah, it's a perfect example.
thank
It's a
you.
perfect example.
I have another question. It's kind of multifaceted. You said that when you need to help someone, what if that person's need is not a healthy need? Not that the unhealthy need is disguising a true need. Like, if someone is going to rob a bank, I shouldn't help them rob a bank. I should help them get money a proper way. That's not the question. The question is, what if someone, they have, sick, twisted emotions, and they need to do something that not necessarily is it dangerous or bad, but it's not necessarily healthy. So is my job to help them succeed in what they need, even though I know that it might not be the best thing? Or should me helping them truly help them get a doctor? Or is me doing the best thing for them calling like the police?
In certain cases, calling the police or a doctor is the only answer. Because it's dangerous, because it's illegal, whatever. But what if your best friend or your sibling needs constant reassurance and compliments to a ridiculous degree, unhealthy? Should you give them the compliment that they're asking for? Or should you say, enough already, grow up?
No, because if you say enough already, they might grow up, but it also damages them more. That's where you probably have to talk to a doctor.
All right, so here's the secret.
Mm-hmm.
You should want to give them the compliment. But you know that that's not good enough. So what you do is you give them the compliment and then tell them to grow up. Because then they'll listen to you. But if you say, you don't need any more compliments, grow up, they're not listening to you, you become the enemy. So you indulge people, even though it's a little embarrassing or, childish or immature, but not dangerous. So you indulge it and then say, you really, once you're on their side, once they trust you because you're giving them what they need, then you can help them further and get them beyond their neediness.
Final.
Okay, an interesting example. I was talking to this couple. They were on the verge of divorce because the husband had invested a lot of money. I think it was $30,000 in some business venture, and he lost the money. It was a disaster. The husband was devastated. He couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat, he was devastated. His wife said to him, "It's okay, it was just money." Now he hates her so badly, he can't look at her, and he wants to get divorced. What did she do wrong?
She didn't address his need properly.
She thought she was addressing his need. He needs to realize that you don't get so upset about money. It's only money. See, that's a very good lesson, and she's right. But he wasn't ready to hear that. He was in pain. And she ignored it. She dismissed it. She said, "Oh, stop it. You don't need to be so upset." "Oh, I don't need to be so upset? Thank you very much." So what should she have done? She should have said, "I know it's terrible. It's devastating to lose." They weren't very rich people. It was devastating to him to lose $30,000. Don't tell me it's nothing. Then you have no sympathy. you're not feeling what I'm feeling, you don't understand my problem, then you're not my friend, and I don't want your advice. But if she had first said, yes, that's terrible. It's terrible. I would have nightmares if it happened to me. But it'll be okay because it's only money. Then once she's on his side, then her advice is welcome. But before you're on the same side, your advice is not welcome.
Understood. Final question. Sometimes you feel that you're helping someone, but in actuality, it's more of an abusive relationship where they make you feel that, you need them or else you're nothing. How do you explain the whole concept of being needed? Because you feel, yes, you should, people need you, but that person doesn't actually need you.
Well, the truth is that person needs you a lot more than they know. They think they need you because they want to control you, and that makes them feel powerful. But really what they need is somebody who can help them stop being so controlling. So it's a double layered need.
So is it your responsibility to help that person even though you know that, it's a whole codependency thing? Thank you, Afana Fagan.
Yeah.
So, but is it your responsibility to serve that need, or sometimes you need to pull back and say, I can't help this person because it's not going to help them. They need someone else.
Right. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is to back out and have them go to somebody professional or something like that.
Understood. Thank you.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Sorry. So my first question is, aren't you is there any time where you can be like a little selfish, like take care of yourself? Like, because you're saying like take care of everybody else first, but sometimes obviously you're supposed to like help others, but is there any time where you can like take care of yourself, like mentally?
If you have to, in your spare time,
Okay.
of course.
But it should
nobody
be like
needs-
for the sake of you should help yourself mentally with the mindset that it will then help others in the future. You're only doing it for a means to an end, not just for yourself.
Yeah. Because as soon as you do feel better, you're going to go help somebody else. So it's not just a good thought, you're actually doing it. You finish eating and you have your energy. Now you can go back to the purpose for which you exist.
And then my second question is, so you're saying like let's say my mom needs me to call her, right? Isn't that her needing? Like, so if I said I need to call my mom, that's like me needing, but I should be doing it for her. But isn't she doing that for her sake instead of mine if she needs it?
That's fine with me. In other words, to do what I need is kind of pointless. To do what she needs is already a good thing. Why does she need it? That's not my business. Unless it's an unhealthy need, and then I know what she really needs.
Thank you.
I have a really quick question.
Okay.
But we're talking about, for example, your mother's needs, but I thought that people don't really need anything.
What we mean by that, I don't really need anything, means anything I need does not answer the question of why I'm here.
I see.
Because I'm not here to be needy. That's like running in circles. God creates me with a need, and now I have to find how to satisfy that need. And then what? It just seems pointless. But if I'm doing something another person needs, first of all, that gets me beyond myself. I'm more than just me. Secondly, it fulfills the purpose for which I exist, because we are all created to contribute to the improvement of the world. not to the improvement of myself.
I
have a
see. Okay,
question.
thank you.
So can I sum it all up? It's not about being good or bad. It's not about being right or wrong. It's not about reward and punishment. It's not about beautiful and ugly. It's not about pain or pleasure. It's about true or not true. Is this the real reason for which I exist? Then it's true. Everything else is just commentary. So taking care of yourself or being selfish, it's not bad. It's just not the truth. And it should bother us because true is important, not emotionally, but intelligently. The real reason for why I exist, that's the truth. What works, what feels good, what makes me rich, that's not true, although it's real. You really do get rich. You really do get popular. But then so what? It's not the truth. And at this stage in history, we already know how to be successful. We know everything we need and how to get our needs. It just doesn't work. It doesn't satisfy. Even if all my needs are met, I will end up depressed because I don't know why. What for? I don't have the truth yet. So again, a quick example. A religion says, if you do this and live like that and whatever, you will get to heaven. That's not true. It's real. You'll get to heaven. But so what? You're not answering the question. Why am I here? I am here in order to get to heaven? That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Because when I get to heaven, I'm going to ask, why am I here? So a religion that says, do this and you'll get to heaven is telling you what works. It's not telling you what's true. This will work for you. I know all the things that'll work for me. Thank you very much. I want to know something more than that. What is the point? They don't tell you because they don't know. That's why we can't survive without the Torah. Only the Torah can tell you why you're here. The religions don't. They just tell you how to succeed in this world and after you die. But it's all about success. It's all about your need. You need a special place in heaven? I'll get you there. That's not why. That doesn't tell me the purpose of creation, the purpose of my birth, the purpose of my existence. So that's the definition of a godly soul. A godly soul is the soul that understands why.
Could I share a story that I read that I think connects to this?
Please.
Yeah, so I was actually studying last night, and I read a story of Rabbi Levi Yitzhak, who visited sick people, and there was a patient who was on his deathbed, and he was very, very troubled. And he asked the patient why, and the patient said that he felt that he, sinned and didn't do many mitzvos in his life, and he felt that, he wouldn't get into Olam Haba, like he wouldn't get into, the world after, into heaven, like he didn't feel he merited it. And right away, without hesitation, Rabbi Levi Yitzhak said, "Don't worry, I'll give you my share of the world to come. Like I will give up my share and give it to you. You don't need to worry." And then right after, the man was so happy, and then he died almost, right after. And his, Rabbi Levi Yitzhak's students were like, "Why would you do that? Like you worked so hard for it. You deserve it. Why are you willing to give away so much for just this one moment of happiness?" And Rabbi Levi Yitzhak said that, it didn't really matter to him, like what happened in the world to come. Like, it doesn't matter. It's about now. It's about this world. It's about, like, I guess it connects to what we were talking about, other people's needs, where even one moment of fulfilling someone else's need is just as powerful as the quote unquote reward for, or it's more important than all of our needs. Just 1 second of fulfilling someone else's need. 1 second of, joy for another Jew. So I thought that was, connected to everything you were saying.
Yes, amazing story.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I always wonder about those stories where people are like, "Oh yeah, like I'll give," like usually tzaddikim, they're like, "Okay, like, like this story, I'll give away my Elam Haba," or like there's stories where they lose their Elam Haba, and I always wonder about that because I feel like there's like more than one time that this person loses their Elam Haba. Like, how many Elam Habas do they have already? And how could they lose it? Like, if it says in Pirkei, like, Kol Yisrael, like every single Jew has a share in it. So how does it make any sense that somebody could lose it?
Yeah, I was about to say in response to that story, I wouldn't worry about Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. He has enough heaven to share it with a lot of people. He wasn't going to be left outside, without homeless or something. But the question is a very good one. And which Olam Haba are we talking about? We're talking about the place in heaven, right? Because when the person was about to die, the question was he going to get into heaven? Where the soul goes when you die. But then there's also Olam Haba, which means after Mashiach comes, and this world, the physical world, will be perfect. Sometimes that's what we mean by the world to come. Or we could be referring to heaven, which comes after you die. So Rabbi Levi Yitzchak was not giving away his place in the world to come, meaning after Mashiach, because that everybody has. Nobody needs to give away their share for somebody else. Every Jew will have an experience of life after Mashiach. But not everybody gets into heaven easily. So for that, you can give away your portion to get another Jew into heaven. And it really is a beautiful story. And it tells you everything you need to know. Put another person before yourself, even your spiritual self.
I still have a question. I'm sorry, I just need a little clarification if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So you were talking about need. What do you mean by need? Because I always just had a very different idea of need in my mind, where like you can't live without it. So is that kind of what you meant when you said like a mother's need to call her son or something like that?
There are different degrees of need. Some needs are life-saving. Your life depends on it. Some are your happiness depends on it. Your health depends on it. So when a mother worries about her child, it's not life-threatening, but it could be health-threatening and it could be happiness threatening,
Then couldn't that go the other way around?
which means,
If it's happiness threatening, and the
Yeah.
son wouldn't be content until he called his mom and told her, I'm here, I'm safe. Then isn't that technically his need if it is happiness threatening?
I
Does
don't
that make
understand.
sense?
I don't understand. Sometimes your mother's need and your need clash. And you need the opposite of what your mother needs, and you need it as strongly, as intensely as your mother. So you have two intense needs, and they're opposites. Like your mother needs to discipline you, and you need to be independent. They don't work together very well.
I have a question.
So what do you do? One second. So what do you do if your need clashes with your mother's need?
Well, I think if you're a little bit more respectful, I guess, you would take into consideration your mother's need before yours.
Absolutely.
But the thing is that it's just kind of, sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's godly. If you put your need first, you're just being human.
But this is also my question with God, like the godly soul, because people still get pleasure from the godly, from fulfilling something from the godly soul. So where do you really draw the line? Because if we're still, getting pleasure from doing godly things, then isn't that still like the animal or the human soul acting?
No, that's the beautiful thing. The beautiful thing is the godly soul has its pleasure. The animal soul or the human soul has its pleasure. They're both complete souls. So there's the pleasure of the godly soul, there's the intelligence of the godly soul, meaning godliness makes sense to the godly soul. Makes sense. To the animal soul, it doesn't make sense. So you have two complete, distinct human characters. The godly soul has pleasure, of course, from godliness. It's not a selfish pleasure, it's a godly pleasure. The pleasure you have of serving someone else is not a selfish pleasure, unless you're doing it only for the pleasure.
But how do you know that you're not doing it for selfish reasons?
Aha! See, that's where you need your intelligence to be able to tell the difference. It's like eating on Shabbos. On Shabbos, it's a mitzvah to eat good foods. So when you're eating good foods on Shabbos, is it your godly soul? Or do you just like good food?
But I'm just confused how it's not driven from selfishness, because I think that humans are naturally selfish, and even by, like, I think this might clarify what I'm trying to say, I guess. So people say, like, with depression, a way to like really help get out of it sometimes is by doing things for other people. So you're doing something good for another person, and that makes you feel good. But you're doing it for selfish purposes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it starts that way because you're really self-focused, hyper-focused on yourself. So it's a good way to introduce other people's needs on a selfish basis. But eventually you get past it and you start to enjoy the other person's enjoyment.
Oh, okay.
It makes you happy to see another person happy, not because it makes you special.
Okay.
And then you don't expect a favor in return, because it's really not selfish.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank
Can
you.
I follow up on that? So you're not expecting something in return, but you're still happy that you're making someone else happy. Like, I feel like in every circumstance, there is some selfish need behind it, unless you're like going out of your way, like
Yeah.
something that's hurting you in a sense.
Yeah. But that can be because you always have your other soul as well. So when your godly soul accomplishes something godly, your human soul is going to take some credit.
So
It's annoying, but what you did was godly.
so you can still consider it a mitzvah even though there are still selfish motives?
No, it really is a mitzvah. But after the mitzvah, the animal soul will come along and say, see, I accomplished that, which is not true. So it doesn't affect the mitzvah. It doesn't diminish the mitzvah in any way. It's just the distraction when the human soul wants a little attention and didn't get the attention because you were being godly. Now the human soul wants to kind of steal a little of the thunder.
Aren't you supposed to want it with your human soul as well?
Oh, that's a tzaddik. That's a little too ambitious.
What do you like? But you want to do something good because it makes you feel good. That's like both.
You know, one of the verses that the Rebbe wants everyone to memorize by heart is the verse that says, every Jew should rejoice in the joy that God is feeling.
I didn't hear like your first few words you were phrasing.
The way to serve God properly is with joy. Serve God with joy. What is that joy? I'm enjoying myself? How is that serving God? I'm doing what makes me happy.
But it makes me happy.
So what makes me happy? It makes me happy to know that God is happy. When I do a mitzvah, I know that makes God happy. And God...
That sounds like a tzaddik.
Yeah, it is a little ambitious. But to some degree, we can feel that. When you make when you make another human being happy, you're so happy to see them happy. It's true.
Yeah.
So we are capable of that selflessness.
But that's still selfish.
No, it's not. If my happiness makes me happy, that's selfish. If your happiness makes me happy, how is that even possible? Because I'm not being selfish. Just like if your pain becomes my pain, I can't stand to see you unhappy. But it's your pain that is hurting me, not mine.
Unless you get distracted and say that you're the one that made them happy and that's why you feel good versus...
Okay, that's an ego trip.
Yeah.
What's an ego trip again?
That
If
you're
you
proud
say
of
that-
yourself for making the other person happy.
Shouldn't you be proud that you did a mitzvah?
No, you should not be proud. You should be glad. You should be glad that you were able to serve God and make him happy.
But I feel like it's like a good, like it's a motivation.
What is?
Like to be proud of yourself, then you want to do it more.
Yes, and some schools actually focus on that and promote all of Yiddishkeit based on your being proud. It's not good.
It makes it selfish, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does sound like it. I mean, I guess it's like for kids that, that's good, but
You see, when you're talking to kids, you do need to talk about good and bad, beautiful and ugly, because you're starting off from zero. The first steps do focus on, you could do some bad things or you could do good things. You do focus on that with children. With children, you give them a reward for being good and you punish them for being bad or discipline them. But that's childish. Eventually, you got to move past good and bad and get concerned with true and false. That's for an adult.
Definitely is. I have a question.
Okay.
In terms of needs, like if there was an apple and my mom needed the apple, but I needed it too, would I be right to give her the apple because she needed it and I believe that you should honor your parents, and to me that's like honoring her? Or is that different? Like, is that weird? I don't know how to put it together exactly.
Of course you give her the apple. Not because you want to do the mitzvah, but
because I love her, she raised me, stuff like that. I don't know.
No, it's not even gratitude. Her hunger is more intolerable than your hunger.
Mm-hmm.
That she should be hungry just bothers you more than if you're hungry.
Definitely.
That's the godly soul.
I heard a really, sorry.
Thank you.
Somebody go ahead.
Hugh.
Okay, since no one's talking, I'll talk. I have a question with the apple thing. This is something I noticed, not Baruch Hashem now, but like during the times of like the Holocaust and whatever, parents would, forego their meals and they'd give it to, their children because they wanted their children to eat. And sometimes children wouldn't want to eat because they wanted their parents to have strength. And then it was a whole power struggle of who should have the food.
I wouldn't call it a power struggle.
Okay, like the other person was so focused on the other person's needs that like a child's like, I'm not going to eat because you're my parent. I love you. I want to give you the food. But a parent is like, you need to eat because you're my child. And it's like, is the child's, it usually goes to like the parent, the child ends up eating the food because they know that it'll make their parents even happier if they ate the food.
You're describing a really good parent and a really good child. You remind me of an interesting scene. When President Shazar, the president of Israel, came to visit the Rebbe came outside to greet him. And then when they needed to go back in, the president said to the Rebbe, you go first. The Rebbe said, no, you go first. So for a few minutes, they stood there like, you go. No, you go. You're the president. No, but you're the Rebbe. So eventually the Rebbe took the president by his arm and they walked in together.
That's beautiful.
I love that. I have a question. Before you were saying that we don't do things for ourselves, right? But let's say someone needs something from me, but I didn't dive in today, and I think I need to dive in for my like connection with Hashem and everything. Is that selfish? And every time I could be doing something for other people, but instead, let's say I'm learning a mimer or I'm davening.
This is a perfect example. You need to daven for your connection to Hashem. Your connection to Hashem means doing what he needs. So ask him, do you want me to daven or do you want me to go help this other person?
Hashem, he's not going to ask me right away. I mean, he's not going to answer me. He already has.
Let's
say I'm in a really,
He already has
what
answered.
if I'm in a really bad mood, right? And like I know that when I'm in a bad mood, I need to learn. But what if someone near me needs me? Like, I don't know.
So you don't make it a question of my need versus her need. You turn to God and say, what does God need? You know what God needs.
Well, God needs me to help other people.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
And that's how you get closer to God. More than by that.
Is my relationship with Hashem, though, why is my relationship with Hashem important if I'm here for others and not me?
So that's what I'm saying. Your relationship with God means how much are you doing for him?
Okay. Right. That makes sense. Thank you.
What if you, I have a question, sorry. What if you help someone, and this is actually a question my friend was asking me. She was, freaking out about college. She's like, if I fail this college class, then my parents are, they paid for the class and they're going to be upset and I'm not going to be able to afford them an apartment. And I'm just like, okay, you don't have to pay for an apartment for them. You should focus on the now in your class. But she's like, if I don't do this, then it's like I'm failing myself. Like, what would you say to someone where you need to take care of yourself, like mentally and emotionally and physically, before you can actually help someone properly?
There are times when your need is crippling. And if you don't take care of it, you won't be able to do anything good. It shouldn't happen too often. There aren't many needs that are that crippling. We should always remain neutral so that we have free choice. When we get stuck in something where we don't even have free choice, that's too intense. That's over the top needy.
So should she take care of herself before she takes care of her parents, or like?
Obviously, that person needs to do that just for her health.
Understood. To
Not
help
that
other people, you need to take care of yourself first.
Yeah, but that's not because yourself is more important.
So is it like in order to be able to better help others so that the help will kind of be, I guess, like better quality, you need to make sure that you have everything you need beforehand?
You need to be a healthy person so that you can fulfill the purpose for which you are healthy.
I see.
I feel like it's just such a circle. It's just like, okay, take care of people. Like, I don't know, like, I know it's meaningful, but like, it doesn't feel like it because it's just a cycle.
The opposite is the cycle. The circle is when you're serving yourself so that you can be yourself. You're feeding yourself so that you'll be healthy, and then tomorrow you'll be able to feed yourself. That's a circle.
Mm-hmm. It's all a circle. Everything's a circle.
No. When you're serving others, you're in an upward direction. You're going up, not around.
Mm-hmm.
You're rising above yourself, and you can rise higher and higher and just keep that line going. Like
I
the
feel like
ladder.
we're all doing the same thing.
It's the ladder that stands on earth and reaches into heaven, and you climb that ladder. You're not going in circles. When you're serving yourself, you are going in circles.
I feel like we're all just doing the same thing, though.
The same thing on a higher level. Same ladder, different rung.
So we're all just helping each other get to a higher rung.
And the higher rung means closer to what God wants. What does it mean to get to heaven? It means to get closer to what God wants. It doesn't mean leaving earth. You don't leave earth ever. Higher means you're sitting on earth, but doing more and more of what God wants. So on the first rung of the ladder, you're doing one mitzvah. On the second rung, you're doing 2 mitzvahs. Okay. Shayna
I have
S.
a question, if we have time.
Was that your father trying to say hello before?
Yeah. He says hi.
Say hello to him.
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have another question. So like, for example, when I'm hanging out with friends and then it's all time to go and some people need a ride home. But if I want to drive someone home, it's really out of my way. So I'll say, okay, I'll do it. Let's say I'm not feeling well or whatever. Okay, I'll do it because I know it's a mitzvah. But this realizing that it's a mitzvah and saying like, okay, well, it's a mitzvah, that's why I'm doing it. Not only why I'm doing it. Obviously, I care about the person, but it's a thought that goes through my head. Does that discount it?
The thought that it's a mitzvah?
Yeah, like the thought that like, well, I'm doing a mitzvah, so I should do it. Not I'm only doing it just because I want to help this person. Like obviously every time that we think to help someone, there's some other I'm sorry, I'm just having trouble grasping this idea.
I think what you're touching on is Avas Yisrael. What exactly is love? What is it? Is it the mitzvah to love your fellow Jew? Loving your fellow Jew means give her a ride when she needs a ride? Not really, because that's a mitzvah in itself. Is giving charity an expression of love? Not necessarily. So you have 2 mitzvahs. One mitzvah is to take care of this person's need, and the other is to love them. Right? They're 2 very different things. So I can give my friend a ride even when I'm not in the mood because it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to do a favor. But then there's also the love of a fellow Jew. Right now, I'm not feeling any love for my fellow Jew, so I'll just do the mitzvah. But if I also have Avas Yisrael, I will give her the ride because of her, not because of my mitzvah. That's even better.
But any mitzvah you do, even if you don't have like a good intention, it's still a mitzvah. It's still an action.
Yes, yes. But which mitzvah is it? Is it the mitzvah of tzedakah or is it the mitzvah of Avas Yisrael?
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
And if it's both, it's even better.
It's always both.
Well, what if you're
The
not
question
feeling?
is, what are you focused on?
Okay.